there in the previous window comes here and attend this entire panel discussion that we are having today. So we will just wait for a couple of more seconds. Good evening, Rishi. Good evening, Samuel. All right, so without any further ado, let's go ahead and let's start the panel discussion. So as I see you guys are joining in and the number is rapidly increasing, I would like to extend a very warm welcome from the Mindlers team to each and everyone who has joined us today. We have a brilliant panel of distinguished personalities who will be sharing their insights on impact of emerging law schools on legal education in India for today's colloquium. And it's my pleasure to introduce them to you all. Our first speaker with us is Dr. Sachin Rastogi. Dr. Sachin Rastogi is a scholar of law with specialization in business law, having a keen interest in constitutional law. He is a research-driven professor with vast experience of 17 plus years into teaching and research, wherein he has taught students at undergrad, postgrad, and PhD level. He is a graduated from Lucknow University and did his law from Merit College, scoring 5th rank in LLM in the university. He did his doctorate and from CCS University, merit on the top legal validity of e-contracts in India. He has also done postgraduate diploma in human resource management as well as diploma in cyber law. Further, he has been supervising research work in the field of law to PhD research scholars and LLM students. Many PhD theses have been awarded under his supervision. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you, ma'am, for inviting me.
Thank you. Moving ahead, we have Mr. Sanjeev Shekhar with us. Mr. Sanjeev Shekhar is the Assistant Director, Admissions Outreach and Communication at Sai University. He has Masters in Public Policy from SDA and Masters in Business Law from National Law School, India University. He currently takes care of outreach at Sai University with the focus on the southern part of India. He has 16 years of work experience across various domains in both the private and non-profit sector. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Our next panelist with us is Professor Deepu Krishna, a postgraduate gold medalist in law, PhD scholar inclined towards mentoring and management. Deepu Krishna is presently designated as Head Admissions and Outreach at WIT School of Law, Mumbai, the law school by BITS Pilani, an institution of eminence in India. Professor Krishna has worked in various capacities and is equipped with combination of academics and administration at the university level. He has also served as Dean School of Law, Vijay Bhumi University, and he was promoted post his performance as Director Student Engagement, Career Advancement and International Collaborations at IFIM institutions. He also joined the institution after working as the Joint Director of Outreach Admissions at OP Jindal Global University, where he joined as Deputy Director, handpicked by the management to stir the admissions and outreach of Jindal Global School. In the past, he has also worked as the Director of Legal Aid and Assistant Professor at School of Law, Karnavati University, and previously as Director Admissions and Assistant Professor, Oro University. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for those kind words, and it's a privilege to be here.
Thank you. Our last panelist with us is Dr. Vijay Kumar Singh. Dr. Vijay Kumar Singh is Professor and Dean Faculty of Law, SRM University, Delhi, NCR, Sonipat. Dr. Singh is an experienced legal professional, having worked in industry and academia. Dr. Singh has been Dean of UPES School of Law. He headed School of Corporate Law for 3 years in Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, a think tank and capacity building institute under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India. Prior to joining IICA, Dr. Singh has worked with the Competition Commission of India as Deputy Director. During this stint, about 5 years with regulator, Dr. Singh has worked in the legal division and has been actively involved with the capacity building and advocacy activities of Commission, including international cooperation. Dr. Singh is also a doctorate in law with basic degree in science, followed by degrees in law with gold medals in his LLB and LLM examinations from Nagpur University. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. And last but not the least, I will also introduce our moderator for today, Parikshit sir. Professionally trained from Harvard University, Mr. Parikshit is one of the leading life coach, motivational speaker, and career coaches in the country. With over 20 years of experience, he has mentored and trained more than 2 million students across various domains and regions. Understanding students' aspiration along with their aptitude and motivating them to achieve excellence has kept him busy for more than 2 decades. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in, and the stage is all yours now, sir.
Thank you, Aishwarya. And I once again invite Mr. Sanjeev Sekhar, Professor Vijay Singh, Mr. Deepu Krishna, Dr. Sachin Rastogi. Thank you so much for giving us your precious time. And dear participants, just to let you know, our esteemed panelists, our participants are educators and people from industry and academia who are part of the ICCC program right now. Okay. So they are all professionals who are listening to us right now. Before I go to my panelists, dear participants, let me give you a very, very simple perspective on the legal education as far as India is concerned. This is one career which many prime ministers, presidents, and tons of politicians, they used to say with a lot of pride, we are law graduates. All right. If you look at the political parties today, many of the parties, the national party spokespersons will be eminent lawyers, right? Law, at one point of time, Aligarh Muslim University, Banaras Hindu University, Delhi University, and that's what law used to be, what you would do after your graduation. 1987, National Law School, Bangalore, when it opened, it changed the entire perspective. And then, of course, law became a 5-year program. All right. We still have a 5-year. And of course, after graduation, it's still there. Delhi University still does it after graduation, and many other universities follow. Law at one point of time used to be criminal and civil law. And today, my God, sky is the limit to what law is. From intellectual property rights to cyber to environment to whatever, law is a career or a profession. We can spend days and days discussing this. And the another beauty is law at the core intersection, whether it's technology, whether it's business, whether it's political science, international relations, public policy, law, economics, law can be married to anything and everything. Okay. So therefore, I'm going back to my panelists now and starting the panel discussion. We'll have very interesting panel discussion. So my first question, Dr. Singh, let's start with you. Okay. How do you look at, and this question I want all my panelists to answer. Okay. So the same question will apply to all of you. How do you look at the landscape of legal education in India today? In 2023, where is the landscape? Dr. Singh, over to you for your opening remarks, please.
Yeah, thank you for that particular question. And I think the question is very broad, and a brief answer to it is a difficult task, but I will try. So when we talk about landscape of legal education, it is actually ever expanding. And you yourself give an example that it is no more limited to the traditional disciplines of criminal, civil, or commercial. In fact, if I take an example of the commercial, space, which actually I specialize in, if you see there is a transformation which has happened in this particular area also, and the profession has grown, and there are different branches which has emerged out of the commercial law which we are talking about. Be it insolvency and bankruptcy code, if you have a look at that itself has come up as a new stream into this. If you look at in the Companies Act itself, we are talking about authorities like IEPF authority. We are talking about National Financial Reporting Authority. So there are a number of authorities which has increased. Serious Fraud Investigation Office. So corporate frauds in itself is a new genre if you look at from the criminal law perspective, because corporate criminal liability has emerged as a new stream altogether. If we are talking about the marriage of technology and law, that has completely transformed this space in all spheres, including corporate law. So now when we are talking about boards or corporate governance, that particular scenario has also completely changed because of e-meetings, e-voting, and these dimensions and reflections are actually transforming the way the legal sector used to be. You rightly said that just like computer science, the legal sector is also encroaching, or I would not use this word encroaching, bringing a marriage with different sectors. And any sector cannot, sustain, or you can say work without the legal hand holding. And I would like to refer to specifically to the SDGs, that is Special Development Goals, which we are intending to achieve by 2030. And the analysis shows that the Millennium Development Goals could not be achieved because there was not a serious legal backing or legal support. Because without the legal support, these goals cannot be achieved. Because ultimately, law and order comes into play. And that's the reason you will find that out of the 17 goals, one of the important goals is law and justice, and that is and partnership for all. So with this, I would just stop my brief comments because other panelists would like to say, but going forward, definitely, yes, would like to speak more.
Thank you so much. That was very exhaustive. Mr. Deepak Krishna, over to you.
Since we are talking about legal education and you refer to MLS Bangalore, I was reminded of an incident when I met Professor Madhav Menon, who's called as the father of National Law School. So he was looking around a campus which was full of all facilities, and then there was Professor Vivekanandan also who was with us. And then he was reminded of an instance when NLS Bangalore was taking shape, that a young Professor Vivekanandan reached out to him and said, okay, I'm here to teach. Where is my cabin? And Professor Madhav Menon, pointed out to a desk and a bench and said, that's your cabin. Go sit there, and that's exactly where you have to teach. But you won't believe it. It was basically those students and the faculty like Professor Vivekanand who created Endless Bangalore. It was called as Harvard of the East. Why? Because both of these people were involved in what you call as, a revolutionizing of legal education. And it was a starting point. And from there has been no looking back. And as we speak, we have campuses in and around country which are not like the endless Bangalore during those times. They are providing students with the state-of-art facilities to think about what these students and such kind of faculties can do, given that the industry is widening, given that the kind of revolution which is happening. Today, the students themselves are bringing in a point of research and discussing with the faculty where it is very novel for the faculty. He looks at it and he is amazed. And he is someone who wants to contribute to the point of research as brought by the student. Uh, you know, Fields like space law, fields like sports law. That is something which is more of now student driven. Students are the ones who are driving the entire, the revolution what we are referring to, and they are also connected, more connected, and they are more socially responsible. I would use that word because the way the politics of our country has moved. So I was taking a talk in the morning with a school, and believe me, I gave them a hypothetical situation, and there was a student who was a 10th grader who came to me and he started talking about capitalism, socialism, and how our country is slowly becoming capitalist. He has no idea about law schools, but at that level, if he's thinking, think about it when he reaches the law school, how his brain is going to develop, what he's going to research upon. You're getting it. That's exactly what is happening to our country. And that's exactly where all these law schools are filling in. They're creating more and more socially responsible as well as legally, aware citizens to this country, which is how a country becomes what, the Prime Minister Modi also calls as Vishwaguru, you know. So that's my take on it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Sanjeev Shekhar, for your opening remarks, please.
Thank you, sir. So as my esteemed panel members had mentioned earlier, we're moving into a new age. And from the legal perspective, I think the big changing aspect of the landscape is the fact that it's no longer a unidisciplinary aspect of teaching or, the setting in which a legal education happens. Many universities are now adopting the multidisciplinary approach, because let's look at it this way. I mean, the kids coming in from 12th standard are whizzes with technology. Whether they want to be lawyers or not, they're definitely whizzes with technology, far ahead than many of us are. So we're looking at an age where cybersecurity, you're talking about drone delivery as a new thing. What are the legal ramifications of this? So tech and law are inseparable now. At a point when there was a time when education was siloed, right? The arts and science was one, tech was one, global relations or political science was one. That aspect is surely changing, and universities such as mine, Sai University, we are adopting that. And I think a lot of other universities are doing that as well. And I think it's very crucial. I mean, you take example, Amazon delivery. We're talking about contracts across the globe at a click of a button. The complexity of that contract as an e-contract, a warehouse in US is delivering it to somewhere in India, and then we're picking it up somewhere in Chennai or Bangalore. So it's very essential to move into a multidisciplinary approach to even the legal education. And I think that change is happening very rapidly. That's a change I see happening as the major change.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjeev. And in fact, that's one of the questions that I'll be asking my panelists a little later on the interdisciplinary part. Over to Dr. Rastogi for your opening remarks, please.
Thank you, Parikshit. As my co-panelists have already mentioned a lot about the changing landscape, but I'll like to add a little bit on that. Now, when we see the present scenario and compare it with the traditional mode, we have come a long way. And I would agree with Dr. Vijay that we have to go a long way in future also. I would like to add two things, like compliance is now the big thing which we are seeing in the legal education. And the other I would like to add is artificial intelligence, which is again posing a lot of challenges. And as legal education centers, we have a great challenge in front of us, that how to deal with it, how to prepare our students to be industry ready to meet such challenges. And a lot of focus, what I see as a professor and for being in this industry for more than a decade, that there has been a great shift, and now we are focusing more on clinical education, where we are not making the students just learn the law, we are making them understand the law and how they apply it. So that is what I see. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sogi. Mr. Deepu, I'm coming back to you now. Okay, now I'm going to ask a lot of questions to my panelists so that we could take it further. During my law days, it seems like a long time back, Delhi University, we used to have a joke. Okay, the joke used to be that if you've done your graduation, okay, it is so theoretical that even after doing your graduation, you will not be able to go to a client and fill up a wakalatnama. Okay, it was so theoretical. It used to be a regular joke. Okay, so my question to you is, how are your schools? I mean, because I know 4 of you represent very, eminent institutions. So how are your law schools different from traditional law schools?
At the cost of deviating away from the topic, it's very imperative that I discuss this and then I come to the question. So yeah, I have spent a lot of time in preparing students for law entrance examination. So I was amongst the first lot of those people who from a national law school stepped into law prep. Now, when I used to prepare students long back in 2006, there was no common law admission test. There was just different entrance examinations, and amongst which was NLS Bangalore's test, which was the most difficult test. Why? Because it was 50% objective and 50% subjective. And your subjective will only be checked if you score more than 50% in your objective. Now, many people used to dread at the sight of it, but believe me, those students who managed to crack this examination are the ones who created NLS Bangalore. So this was something which was inbuilt in my mind, because I could see that even I cracked that examination. I remember we used to really prepare well, and what they were testing us was very related to the 5 years of our life, practically, because there are many students who reach out to me and ask me, how do they teach you law in law school? It is very important, because if a medical student is preparing for NEET, he's mentally prepared that, blood, urine, these terms, he cannot shy away from it. Surgery. What should a law student be prepared for? My only answer to him is language and reasoning. These are 2 things which are the tools which you should be prepared with. Yes, no doubt about it. It's theoretical in nature, because theory forms a very integral part of it to understand. For example, political science and sociology, they are an integral part of learning constitution. Because unless until you don't know about the society, you cannot understand that how a constitution works in that society, right? Or the laws work in that society. Now, what law schools were doing they were going through an entrance examination. I'm not criticizing the entrance called as CLAT, but I've been a very big critique because I have prepared some students who are exceptional. but they don't manage to crack the examination, and they rank at the bottom. So, I have met the vice chancellor of MLS, the present vice chancellor also, even some faculties also. They all believe that the standard of student is coming down. My answer to them is it's not the standard of students coming down. It's basically the entrance level at which probably there is a problem because it's become a bit technical. So a student who has a technical bent of mind, who is not theoretical in nature, who is not philosophical in nature, who cannot understand language as such, is also managing to get into law school. So when I was given this opportunity to create a procedure for our law school, which is in its first year, I was very clear. Even if it's going to take me time, I'm going to make sure that we're going to meet every student we admit. How did we manage to do it? Believe me, the dean, we are all on the same page with what we did is the curriculum is something I'll come to later. At the very entrance level itself, we are testing the intent of the student to do law. But what we are doing is, yeah, the entrance score matter to us. It can be any entrance score. The 12 scores, because the Bar Council of India says 45% and above, it matters to us. We have given a weightage. We are giving more weightage to the extracurricular which the student has done. Even if he's what you call, an influencer on the social media, there is a marks for it because we want to see what exactly the student has done because interpersonal skills also matter a lot in law. That how because that's how they are now. The new age student. That's how they are now. We give a 50% weightage to this process, and and the student has to score more than 50% in this first stage. The next is where a faculty would sit with the student and do something called as an interaction. Now, this interaction is not where we will ask them what is your strength and weaknesses. On the other hand, we give them one word and we ask them to either write or speak certain things. And depending upon the same, we enter into a discussion. So we give the faculty 35 minutes, but it's going to a 1 hour also, and we are ready for it. Because tomorrow, I don't want a vice chancellor or a dean or even a faculty to come and tell me that what is the kind of students, the standard of students is coming down, because this student has to study law, not just theoretically. He also has to do internships. He should be philosophically very strong. He should be someone who's good in his language. And he is one of those who has butterflies in his stomach when he reads a news article about law and he feels, I need to challenge it. I need to challenge the sex system. He is someone who sees law, whatever he does. And that's the first step, that's exactly the first step where we are trying to bring that change. And as we proceed, because there are many other things also, I don't want to take up the time, but that's the most distinctive factor at which we are changing the entire system.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll definitely take up more questions on that. Dr. Singh. Dr. Singh, tell me, how are we preparing students from there is a kind of a globalization requirement as far as law is concerned. Cross-border legal expertise is required. So how are we moving as far as this profession is concerned? Dr. Singh, over to you.
Yeah, I think, globalization has impacted all professions, including the legal profession. And it is not the first time we are realizing this. This happened long back in 1991 when we realized that globalization has an impact. And that is where the policy changes happened, particularly in the corporate setup. If you look at it, we transformed and we opened our borders, moved into the different aspects. And when now today we are discussing at G20 and becoming to be Vishwa Guru, as pointed out by Deepu. So here, basically, idea is that you learn from the global scenario. At the same time, you maintain the national interest and national perspectives as well. It is not protectionism, but trying to evolve yourself and compete at the global stage and global platform. This particular profession has probably been resistant to globalization. If you look in terms of opening up of the borders to the legal profession, and naturally so, because if we look at the kind of the legal education we had prior to the national law schools was not that competing enough. It is now probably that particular generation, the new generation of law schools and law students are coming up in the market. But if you look at the leadership level at different law schools, and these are all products of the traditional setup, because I also did my 3-year LLB from a traditional university in Nagpur. And slowly we catched up and picked up because of the developments and this. But we are talking about some less percentage of educational or legal institutions, which probably are doing great in innovating, trying to come up with new ways of evaluating students, taking them into their fold for their development. But at the same time, in the country, there exists a host of law colleges, about 1100, 1200, or maybe 1500 law colleges, which are training lawyers. So the duty of academicians like us and teachers like us is to mentor them as well. It is at this particular stage, if we try to segregate these particular students on the basis of the quality which they don't possess, what we as law schools will do. So the perspective here should be like, I am reminded of a famous book, The Introverted Lawyer by Hedy Brown. And she basically highlights that how a shy person, how a person who is introvert can be very, very useful to the profession in different ways. And I'll give you one example, that is mediation. Now, mediation is coming up like a great way, wherein they can be very, very useful as an alternate dispute resolution. And this profession, again, when we are talking about globalization, we have to learn a lot of things from the international legal market, particularly the alternate dispute resolution, the way we are tackling our disputes, the way we are analyzing or taking care of the government disputes. So these are different perspectives when we look at from the perspective of globalization. Alternatively, there are scenarios which are emerging in the country. Like, for example, if you see arbitration, now we are having 3 or 4 international arbitration centers in the country, which was not this scenario before. In fact, government has set up 2 international arbitration centers. These are all opening up new opportunities and new schemes for the lawyers or the to-be lawyers. Apart from it, there is another international financial services authorities, if you look at. Now, that is again international financial center situated in Gift City. Now, this is again bringing up a globalized framework, because the people who will work in the Gift City will have to have an understanding of the international laws and international perspectives. Just look at the WTO. The WTO, there are a number of disputes in which India is party as a petitioner, or maybe a complainant, or a respondent, or maybe a third party. These are scenarios which are opening up as far as globalization is concerned. And I personally feel there are a lot of opportunities around these. And the law school should not only concentrate on the traditional front, but also look at these opportunities which are there. I believe that there is a lot of space left out to be covered, which we need to explore and cover them. That is what I would say.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. That was again very, very exhaustively explained. Dear participants, when Dr. Singh talked about the introverted lawyer, okay, there is another myth. Let's break it today. A lot of us think that as lawyers, public speaking, extroverted personality is very important. Okay, why? Because our impression of law is litigation, but that's not the case. Whether you have a preference for introversion or extroversion, you can make an excellent lawyer. Okay, all of us, and of course my panelists would tell you, most of the students who are studying at these famous law institutions, right, they normally don't choose litigation as the first choice. Okay, they can do so many other, they can look at so many other areas. So that's a myth that I just thought, let me break that. Mr. Shekhar, let me come back to you. You talked about interdisciplinary approach, right? So my request to you would be, can you throw more light on law and interdisciplinary education at your university?
Sure. Thank you, sir. So just the very setting. So we offer a School of Arts and Science, which offers BA and BSc programs. We offer a School of Computing and Data Science, which offers BTech programs. And then we have the School of Law, which was recently started. We have a first batch come in. they quite often sit in the same classes together. So it's not just about being taught a subject outside law. It's about being in the atmosphere or the surroundings where your discussions are with peers of different fields that makes it interdisciplinary. For example, and we have, for example, unique courses like using big data to analyze in the law course. It's not a BCI prescribed course, it's a specialization we're offering. So they share that classroom with the data science students from the School of Computing and Data Science. So that sort of thing. For example, as a BA LLB, the BA part has psychology, political science, and economics. Now, those classes are not standalone for them. They actually share the classroom with the regular BSc or BA students. And hence, the peer learning and the discussions are truly interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary. And I'll give an example. We had a robotics competition recently that was conducted by IIT Bombay. While it was specialized it was conducted, it was participated by the School of Computing Data Science, there was a lot of talk by the legal students about the ethics around it. There was a lot of discussion among them about the legal mechanisms around it. What does it mean to do it was basically they were designing a driverless bike to do door-to-door delivery for the delivery companies. So what are the legal aspects of it? These kind of discussions that if you can foster in a university, which we try very hard to, that is what we mean by bringing in a multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary. It's not unusual to have psychology or economics or political science in your BA part because that's BCI prescribed. It's more about how do you interweave them into the atmosphere with the regular other students of the non-legal education. That's where we are striving hard to make sure that they have that. For example, political science is a subject that is compulsory for part of the BA LLB course. They attend a course called Global Challenges, which is a foundational course for the other schools, the School of Arts and Science, School of Computing and Data Science, where everything from the Russian-Ukraine war and fuel prices is discussed. So that comes under political science, under international relations. So that is how we are trying to weave together the various departments or schools and make sure that the legal students are as much a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Rastogi, question for you. As of course, the other panelists are also talking about as to how we are traveling from cross-border to other requirements and interdisciplinary also. My request to you would be, how do you kind of make sure that along with theoretical knowledge, practical legal understanding and skills are also imparted to students? Can you throw some light on that, please?
Yeah, sure. See, what we have been seeing, like the very first question was that how the landscape for legal education has changed. This is one change which we can see today. Earlier, as you said, that there was a joke in Delhi University that yes, it is purely theoretical. Now it is more of a practical side. I mentioned earlier also that now we have clinical methods of teaching. Apart from that, now we have blended learning. This concept of blended learning has come up, where the students are asked, or rather I should say that yes, they are made a part of the interaction. There is a lot of interaction. Plus, apart from that, we often come across competitions like moot court competitions, client counseling competitions, legal aids. These are all preparing the students from the practical side. One more thing which we see again is the internships, which have been made mandatory for the law students. This again helps the student to learn the practical side. And we see that the teaching methodology or the pedagogy has changed, and now it is not merely that the teacher teaching the subject, rather it is the student who is also applying his mind, and they are coming up with and they're facing the issues with the people. So this is something which we see that yes, a lot of emphasis is nowadays being given to the practical approach. So yes, a lot of things have been done, and this is a huge shift which I see. Like even I was a student of a traditional law college, and it was merely the theoretical aspects were told to us. And when we went to the court, it was like all blank to us, and we had to start from scratch. But today, we have these clinical papers also in the final years, where the students learn how to draft, how to defend everything, the pleadings and draftings, all are taught. So this is something where we are creating, or we are actually providing the students with the practical side.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It just sounds so comforting that our generation is being trained well. Just a request to all my four panelists. There are a lot of people who might be wanting to connect with you or want to know more about your university. If you could just share your email IDs or details in the chat, please. I would request all four of you so that they could kind of, the educators or counselors or principals, vice principals, whoever is listening to you, they could connect with you. Okay, that's one. My next question. I would just want a response from all four of you on what are the challenges that we face. Okay, very quick observation before I move on to other questions. Let's start with you, Mr. Sanjeev Shekhar. What are the challenges that we face? Now, challenges could be related to infrastructure, it could be faculty, it could be other resources. Just a quick input on challenges, please. Mr. Shekhar.
Yeah, I think the balance, we're a very new university, so we have plenty of challenges, and I can speak with that. Where do we tip the balance? Is it focusing on infrastructure first, or we focus on research first? Which comes first is always a big question, right? Because it's not possible to, bring them all up to speed at the same time. So that's one of the biggest challenges that we have been facing. But another thing is also moving away from the traditional mold, which we are trying very hard to do in terms of having flexibility for the faculty. They don't have to be there 9 to 6, 9 to 5. They're doing research somewhere outside. It's more than fine. And that's for a traditional model, a lot of older people find that disturbing. Even administration side, they have this question, where are the faculty? But that's the whole point. I could be watching a documentary and getting ideas as a faculty. It doesn't matter. So that is the challenge of trying to bring in that mindset that we're trying to be truly a global kind of university or a law school. These are the kind of challenges that we have to overcome, changing the mindset for a new age.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Deepu, over to you, please.
Well, one of those challenges which I have rather encountered would be related more of it's a student-centric thing where they are full of potential and they reach the law school with a lot of dreams. And once into the classroom, they start understanding about the way of teaching, the pedagogy, uh, the requirements which are there for the specific kind of a course. I have met some students who, when they are in the third year, that's exactly when it's also a bit of an emotionally consuming course because you learn a lot of those things also which take a toll on their pattern of thinking. So as when we were in law school, we used to call it as school of thought. So, some become Marxist in their thinking and they have a totally different way of looking at things. Many would feel that it's not a challenge. It's something which they have to grow up with. But where my point was that it did affect them in their what you call as the new age problem of mental health. And I worked a lot relating to address this issue because I was seeing students breaking apart also. They were even, losing out on, on their dream of a good India or as a dream of a better place that they wanted to create. For which we have tried to bring up some solutions, which we are trying to do at our new place at BITS Law School, where in a previous place of my employment, what we tried was we had an in-house counselor who was a lawyer and a person who had an inclination of law. And even I tried to sit with them and make them understand that no, this is not how it is. But then it also backfired because these people were there in the campus, right? I was in the campus and they were meeting me again. So there was a conflict of interest. So what new we have now done is we have a phone number which is connected to an NGO, and we have a room where the students would go. They will call up. Who's there on the other end is something which they don't know, and they are able to converse. So there is privacy which is maintained. They're also getting those solutions. And believe me, this is very important because, as I said, teaching of law, you can take care of infra, you can take care of faculties, you can take care of the books they require, you can give them facilities. But then I again repeat, law is a very emotionally consuming course because there are certain things which the students are not able, and there is a pressure situation also with the student faces. And this is something which we have to address collectively as educational institutions.
True, true. Without any doubt whatsoever, I consider law to be an academically rigorous program. Okay, for me, law is in the same lines as, just like we talk about medicine or chartered accountancy, actuarial, I think law, I would keep it there. It requires that kind of academic rigor. Dr. Rastogi, any challenges that you face?
Yeah, there are from two different aspects I would like to discuss the challenges. One is from the side of or the aspect of the student. What we have seen that since the inception of 5-year law courses, what I have been facing is that the students, even after when they reach the 5th year, they're not clear with the thought and with their goal in future. This is one thing that, because since they are not clear, we are not able to groom them because they have various options after doing law. But since they're not clear with their thought and with their goal, it becomes a challenge for us to how to groom them. So this is one challenge which I see from the perspective of the students. From the perspective of a college itself, yes, with no offenses to anyone, getting good faculties and getting good research is something which I see that yes is a big challenge for us.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Singh.
Yeah, thank you. I think it is a very important and prominent question. And in the audience, I was just, following the chat, and one of the participants, Raj, points that the placement is the greatest challenge. Indeed, it is for all the law schools and all places. And that is one of the major questions which anyone asks when you come for it. And I completely agree with Sachin that, students are not yet decided, but they are clearly decided about placement. They have their figure in their mind that yes, this should be there, this should be there. But even after 5 years, they are not decided that what they actually want to do. So one of the major things which I feel the university should look at and do is the competency mapping of these students. The idea is that from first year itself, there should be some amount of career and placement intervention which should begin with. And this actually is inherent in the curriculum. If you look at it, we send them to internships, but the assessment of those internships is very important. And that is where comes the resource, which is always in crunch in all universities. If you look at that is something which is a very, very important area, because if you have to address the students and personalized learning, you want resources for that. That is one important element which needs to be looked at. Another important area which has been touched about is research. And I personally believe that we are doing not great in research as a whole country, I would say, because we have been talking about research, but a lot of productive element is not coming out of it. Particularly in social sciences and in legal law field, we are not comparable to many countries who are doing a great amount of empirical research and doctrinal research. I think this is an area of opportunity also for us, because since there is a huge amount of people who are entering into the legal field, probably a lot of students can be directed towards legal research, because there is policy research. This is another important area where there is a lot of scope. So these are the dimensions. Given the challenges for the institutions, I think all institutions, infrastructure, admissions, and then placement, having good teachers, attrition rate, these are the major challenges which institutions have always. And we have to meet the challenges, and that is what a good institution and a great institution and the best institution gets decided by, that who are meeting these challenges good. So I can tell about my university, we are trying to meet all these particular challenges well as far as SRM goes, and trying to build the new age legal professionals, trying to instill in them the confidence and making good people. That is what is our motto. So at the end of the day, it is the individuals, you are creating great individuals who can fend for themselves, create a niche for themselves. Because law, we cannot say that this is only one stream, one area. There are multiple options, and often they get confused, as Sanjeev pointed out. And our duty as educational institutions is to clear that particular confusion for the student. When he passes out, he should have at least clear two options, that yes, this or that. And we have to work towards that particular thing.
True. Thank you so much, Dr. Singh. And another myth, I remember during my law days, it used to be another thing that law is a second or third generation profession. Okay, law at one point of time was never considered to be your first generation profession. But today, I'm sorry, Things are completely, I'm not saying today, it's been happening for the last decade or so. Students who don't have anyone in the family who's even remotely connected to law as a field, they are making a killing, and they're doing so well. And just to share, participants, when supposing somebody has done a 5-year law program, and the first thing that comes to your mind is going and practicing in a court of law, that is just one of the maybe 50 plus career opportunities, right from and the next question that used to come to parents' mind was, you've done law, that means the next point is civil services. No, gone are those days. I mean, there are tons of opportunities for professionals who are doing law. Okay, great. My last round of questions for all of you. Okay, we'll have to be really quick here. Mr. Shekhar, my last question to you. Now, when you talk about, now SAI is a young university, I mean, as in young law program there. So how do you foster innovation and entrepreneurship amongst students?
Okay. So that's a good question, and frankly a difficult one, because we're just into the game about a year now. But one of the things is there are a lot of student-led clubs that we allow them to take over and give them the complete freedom. Even the moot court competitions are very much student-run. Of course, guided by the faculty, but we're not going to be hamstringing them, saying that it has to be done this way or that, as long as it follows the basic norms needed for any moot court competition. But they are given a lot of leeway to experiment, bring in their own thought process, and in fact, for the legal aid clinics that we are planning, the students are already getting into the planning process, because we also want to create these socially responsible students. So we are located far out of the city, like many large universities, and we are trying to adopt the villages around our campus. And the students are taking the initiative to go there, find out. So in a way, that is a form of entrepreneurship. If it is social entrepreneurship, right? They're trying to find out what are the issues. And it also touches upon then the aspect of practicality, right? Because they're going to be guiding marginalized groups, how to frame a legal document, how to file a petition. So these are some of the ways in which we are hoping to, and we have started fostering that air of innovation and entrepreneurship.
Thank you.
Last,
please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Last, as I had earlier mentioned, we are encouraging them to go into interdisciplinary fields with the other schools. So once these first year students go to the second year in the computer science school, they're going to be having a lot of AI and machine learning. And there's a lot of legal ramifications and ethicality around those topics. So we're trying to get them to start a club which discusses this and come up with frameworks around that. They may not have to come up with something earth-shattering right now, because they may not necessarily have the knowledge yet, but we want to get them into that thinking process. Because as I said, interdisciplinarity is not just a buzzword, it is the thing now. And for the legal students, it's very essential that they start moving with the other fields. And that is the form of entrepreneurship where they think, innovate, and hopefully create an impact.
Thank you. Absolutely. That's and I'm going to take up that question with Dr. Rastogi also. Dr. Rastogi, going by what Mr. Shekhar talked about, when we are talking about rapid advancements in technology and so many things that we don't even know what will be the ramifications, the legal ramifications, so to say. So my question to you is, how does your university, or how do we, as far as profession is concerned, we discuss the kind of the adaptability of the curriculum with the changing landscape?
Yeah. See, when we're talking about technology, ChatGPT is the buzz right now. So the curriculum, when we're designing the curriculum, like today we have to be tech savvy. The lawyers have to be tech savvy. It is not expected that they are not well versed with the technology. So we are trying to inbuild these things into the curriculum. Like suppose, like we are having a center. We are planning to create a center for artificial intelligence, where the students will be learning the ramifications of how things are being carried out. What are the consequences? So we have to build in such things where technology is a part of our curriculum, and we have different centers where students who are looking forward to work in that field can actually work practically. So this is one thing which we are doing. We have different aid centers in our faculty of law, in different areas, and all the 8 centers are focusing or including technological part with them.
Thank you. Dr. Singh and Mr. Deepu Krishna, I have the same question for both of you. Okay. You can split it in part and share it. And then I'm holding on to that one question which Bushra Ahmed has asked. Want to ask the panelists about public opinion of the legal profession. Okay, we'll call it quits by this. This is the last question where all of you, I would request you to just share one line as to how do you consider legal profession in India. So my question to both of you is legal research, publication, policy development, legal ethics, social responsibility among students. I would just want both of you to quickly highlight these areas during during the entire 5-year process in your universities. Dr. Singh, let's start with you, and then we'll move to Mr. Krishna.
Yeah, so I think these are the important areas, and the curriculum should have an ideal mix of them, because when we are talking about program objectives of the LLB program or BA LLB program or BBA LLB program, objective of all these particular programs is basically to build understanding of the students at the base level. They should be clear about the basic laws of the country. They should be able to appreciate them. So, nobody can learn all the laws, but at least they should be taught how to read the laws. So if a new law comes, they should be in a position to appreciate the niceties of the law and how that is to be interpreted. This is one important area. Reading legal precedents and understanding them, analyzing them, critically evaluating them is another important task which has to be, and the curriculum should have that particular feature. We have been talking about clinical legal education, and there is a lot of focus on there. We are trying that, yes, we are having so number of papers, so number of this. But if you see the Bar Council curriculum, it has got only four papers, which is clinical legal education. Can we afford to have only 4 clinical legal education paper? So there has to be an innovation which university should come up with. Like, for example, we have come up with an innovation in our university is have some component of practical or clinical aspect in each paper. Like, for example, if you are teaching contract, teach them how to draft a contract. At least they should be able to draft a clause of a contract. If you are talking about consumer protection, they should be able to file some application in consumer protection. If we are talking about RTI, then they should be able to file an RTI. This is an approach which has to be taken for different subjects and different papers. We were talking about entrepreneurship, and definitely there are number of career opportunities in the area of entrepreneurship. We are talking about Making in India. We are talking about Digital India, Startup India. Who are these people who are going to do this? Probably everywhere there is a requirement of a legal person concerned, and the legal scholar or a legal student has to find an opportunity in these areas. NEP talks about multidisciplinarity, interdisciplinarity, which Sanjeev also highlighted in the university. We are also a multidisciplinary university, and I find that this gives a lot of benefit to the student in a way that they can collaborate with a number of fields, number of streams. They don't have to be in a silo. So that helps them actually. So these are the different scope or opportunities or an areas as far as curriculum goes. Research, again, a foundation. So in all papers, I personally believe that all papers are having a research component. They have to write projects, they have to make a presentation, and critical thinking skills. You have to build critical thinking skills, innovation, ideas. These are the things which has to be worked on as far as curriculum goes. I leave it to Deepu for the remaining ones.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, over to you, Mr. Shah.
So I agree with most of the points which Professor Singh said. Adding on to it, I'm compelled to go back to what Steve Jobs said a few years back, that when it comes to leadership positions in Apple, he will always look towards liberal arts rather than management. And he had his own reasons behind it. Similarly, for I keep giving this example to students also. For science, everything is a eureka moment. So there is this research in MIT which has even made death optional now. Aging has been cured. But then there also always has to be a subject of humanities which restricts them, which tells them that stop it. That's exactly where multidisciplinarity and interdisciplinarity comes into play. Where law could be one of those courses which I personally feel. So I was a big ambassador of the course by CBSE of legal studies in 11th and 12th, because I think at least the concept called as rights and duties should be explained to a student at the school level itself, where he has an understanding, which I'm very, very disappointed that still people don't have. So when I go and ask them, what do you mean by rights? Many people don't even know. Leave everything. People in our country don't even know the meaning of those simple words in our preamble called as republic. So I keep asking people what is the meaning of republic, and I'm very disappointed. People don't know about the meaning of it. So my idea about interdisciplinarity is very, very simple. That to build a better world, certain aspects of legal philosophy, legal principles, married with technical knowledge is something which will be the most important thing for the future. So anyone who armed, and this came to our country a bit late, believe me. So, Mr. Parikshit would agree with me. And I would request each person, attending this session to please go back, YouTube Michael Sanders' lecture on justice. Okay, please do attend that lecture. It's a lecture which every human being should attend, where a professor of Harvard University, Professor Michael Sanders, is explaining the concept of justice. From the start to the end, you will not move. You will listen to him. And probably you'll think about, why didn't I take up law? Or else, this is so interesting. And as Professor Madhavan said, it's about justice. It's not about just law. It's about learning justice. And that's exactly what every other stream, be it management, be it, engineering. Today, in IITs, all of a sudden we saw a surge of MUNs happening. You know why those kids were doing that? They're very intelligent students. They're doing it because they understood that through this MUNs, etc., they also would want to have knowledge about whatever is happening around the world. So at Wits Law School also, the birth of this entire law school is as such because Wits Pilani and MIT have been in relationship since 1990s. They were the ones who gave them this idea that do something non-STEM also, because that is the next thing. That is exactly what is happening, because technocrats without the idea of subjects of humanities and philosophies are something which may become unemployable in the coming years of your life. So chat GPT, there is so much of buzz around it, but believe me, you should know how to use chat GPT. Otherwise, even that is useless.
Thank you. Thank you. Dear participants, we've had an amazing conversation with 4 of our panelists, and Sai University, SRM University, Haryana, Sonipat, Jagran Lake City University, and of course, BITS Law School. Now, my last question. Okay, last question, and just a simple one-liner from 4 of you as to how you look at legal education. But before that, let me share. When I think about law, in a very layman term, I think about curiosity, observation, negotiation. There are so many things that can be attached. And law is one field which can be applied. You tell me you want to start a business. Anything to start with a business, you need some sort of legal advice. Startups coming in, copyrights, trademarks, patents, you name anything in the world. Law is I call an evergreen profession. Okay, it's just like at one point of time we used to say that every student must be trained should do some sort of a duty for the country. Okay, I would say, like today we say every human being should be taught human behavior or some aspects of psychology. If left to me, I would say each one of them should know something about law. All right. So my last line for my guests, let's start with Mr. Shekhar. Where do you see legal profession? Quick inputs from all of you, please.
I'm sorry, my bandwidth is really messy.
What's your opinion? What's your opinion of the legal profession?
My opinion, I think it is underrated. It has been underrated and it's making a comeback. I take it from my own experience quickly. When I finished school, and coming from the state that I come from, Tamil Nadu, legal education was only associated with dirty politics, which was very sad, misrepresentation. So even at home, nobody considered it. But now you can see that if you want to be a technocrat, you need to know the law. You want to work for Facebook, you need to know the law. You want to work for Google, you want to work for Twitter, now that Elon Musk has taken over, you need to know the law, because the legal ramifications of what he's doing and changing politically on this platform. So I see law as a progressive career and something that everybody should take up. Even if they're not going to be lawyers, they should try and understand it on the side, do courses of law. That's how I see it. Law is an essential aspect of anyone's career.
Thank you. Dr. Rastogi.
Keeping it crisp, I would say, I would go a step ahead of the saying that sky is the limit. I would say space is the limit for law.
Thank you. Dr. Singh.
Yeah, I think legal profession is exciting, and it is going to be exciting and keep exciting. That is what the legal profession is. And I agree with my fellow panelists that each one of us as citizens should learn the law. And that is where our motto also works. And it says learn, leap, and lead. So that is what I would end with.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Deepu.
Someone who is very, very passionate about it. I call it, law for me is power. And for the millions of students who are doing it and they're bringing about this change, I think it is basically power which is pulling more and more students into it. And with pride, I say this, that there are more and more girls now who are taking up law. So if you see those IAS officers who were selected very recently in the UPSC examination, not just them. If you go to any law school, the topper students are usually the girls. And that's what is law. It is power.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all of you, for being with us. And thank you, participants, for listening to us. Aishwarya, over to you.
Thank you so much to all the panelists for giving us your time today. I really appreciate it. It was really great insights that you have shared about law as a career for us. So thank you once more from the entire team of Mindler to you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us over here. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure coming here. Thank you so much. Thanks to each one. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, a small announcement while we say goodbye to our panelists. Dear participants, but tomorrow you have the day 2 of ICCC program. So kindly ensure that you are there by 8:30 so that we can start with our very first session by Dr. Chadha. So please be there on time and see you tomorrow. All right, sir. Good evening. Have a good day.